The sun was slowly rising over Atlanta, Georgia, bathing the city in a golden light. Evelyn Johnson, a 68-year-old woman, woke up to the sound of birds singing outside her window. Her small apartment in the West End neighborhood was filled with memories, family photos, travel souvenirs, and trophies from marathons she had run in her youth. Evelyn got out of bed, her body a bit stiffer than it used to be, but her spirit remained unshaken. She headed to the kitchen, where she prepared her simple breakfast, a slice of whole wheat bread, scrambled eggs, and a cup of black coffee. Today was a special day. Her grandson, Jamal, had just been born, and she wanted to buy a meaningful gift to celebrate the arrival of the new family member. As she sipped her coffee, her son, Marcus, called. "Good morning, Mom. How are you today?" Marcus asked, his voice strong and reassuring. "I'm fine, son. Excited to go to the jewelry store and pick out something nice for little Jamal," Evelyn replied. With a warm smile Marcus could feel through the phone. "That's great, Mom. Please be careful and let me know if you need anything," Marcus said, always protective. "Of course, dear. Don't worry, I'll be back before lunchtime," Evelyn assured him before hanging up. After taking a shower and dressing in her best blue dress, she grabbed her purse and headed out. As she walked through her neighborhood, she greeted neighbors and friends, all of whom knew her for her kindness and wisdom. Evelyn caught a bus to downtown, where the most upscale shops in Atlanta were located. The jewelry store she had in mind was one of the most renowned, known for its elegant pieces and high-quality service. When she arrived at the store, Evelyn opened the door and was greeted by the sound of a small bell ringing. She looked around, enchanted by the beauty of the displayed jewelry. She approached the counter and patiently waited for someone to assist her. However, the staff, all young and white, seemed to deliberately ignore her. "Excuse me," Evelyn said, trying to get the attention of one of the saleswomen. "I'd like to see that pearl necklace, please." The young saleswoman looked her up and down with disdain. "Are you sure you can afford that?" she asked, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Evelyn felt her heart tighten, but she maintained her composure. "Yes, I can. Could you please show me the necklace?" Before the saleswoman could respond, another employee, a tall blonde man, approached. "I think you'd be better off looking at something more affordable," he said, stressing the last word. Evelyn looked at both of them, feeling the indignation rising within her. "I know what I'm looking for, and I know I can afford it. Now, please, show me the necklace." The employees exchanged condescending glances before stepping away to retrieve the item. Evelyn stood there, feeling small and humiliated, but determined not to let them treat her that way. "I'm a customer like anyone else here," she murmured to herself. "I deserve to be treated with respect." When the staff finally brought the necklace, Evelyn examined it carefully. It was perfect, exactly what she was looking for. However, the treatment she had received left a bitter taste in her mouth. "I'll take it," she said, holding her head high. The staff couldn't hide their surprise when they saw that she could actually afford the necklace. As they processed the purchase, Evelyn felt a wave of sadness and anger. But she knew this was just the beginning of a much larger fight. Evelyn left the jewelry store with the necklace carefully tucked in her purse, her heart heavy but her determination stronger than ever. She knew she had to tell Marcus what had happened, and together, they would find a way to fight against that injustice. Evelyn left the jewelry store with the necklace carefully tucked in her purse, but her mind was still stuck on the humiliation she had just endured. The busy streets of downtown Atlanta bustled around her, yet she felt isolated in the crowd. She needed to talk to someone, to let it all out. She pulled out her phone and called her longtime friend, Margaret. "Margaret, it's Evelyn. Do you have a minute?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Of course, dear. What happened?" Margaret replied, immediately sensing the tension in her friend's voice. "I went to the jewelry store today. I wanted to buy a gift for Jamal, but they treated me so badly, Margaret. They made me feel so small, like I had no worth," Evelyn said, the painful words flowing out. "Oh, Evelyn, I'm so sorry you went through that. Are you okay now?" Margaret asked, her voice full of concern. "I'm on my way home. I need to think about what to do next." "I can't let this slide," Evelyn said, resolute. "If you need anything, I'm here for you," Margaret offered, her support unwavering. "Thank you, Margaret. I'll talk to you later, Evelyn said before ending the call. As Evelyn walked toward the bus stop, the employees at the jewelry store were still talking about the incident. Josh, the manager, was upset with how things had unfolded. I can't believe she actually bought that necklace, Josh said, shaking his head. I know. It was strange. Honestly, she didn't look like someone who could afford it, the saleswoman added, still baffled. Well, we can't judge customers like that. We need to be more careful in the future, Josh said, trying to stay composed. At the police station, Marcus was finishing his shift when he got a call from his mom. Hey, Mom, are you back already? Marcus asked, smiling. I'm on my way, but I need to talk to you as soon as I get there, Evelyn said, her voice serious. What happened, Mom? Marcus asked, instantly concerned. I'll tell you everything when I arrive. Just be ready, Evelyn said, trying to keep calm. I'll be waiting. See you soon, Marcus replied before hanging up. Evelyn arrived at the station a few minutes later. Marcus was waiting at the entrance, his captain's uniform standing out amid the daily hustle. He immediately knew something was wrong when he saw the look on his mother's face. Mom, what happened? He asked, taking her hands. I went to the jewelry store, and they humiliated me. They called the police and accused me of trying to steal, Evelyn said, her voice filled with pain. Marcus felt a surge of anger rise within him. They did what? How dare they treat you like that? All I wanted was to buy a gift for Jamal, but they made me feel like a criminal, Evelyn said, tears starting to fall. This won't go unanswered, Mom. We're going to fight this, Marcus said, determined. I promise we'll get justice. Evelyn looked at her son, feeling a bit more at ease. Thank you, son. I know I can count on you. Let's go home now. We need to plan our next steps, Marcus said, guiding his mother to the car. As they drove back home, Marcus and Evelyn discussed what actions they needed to take. They knew this fight wouldn't be easy, but they were ready to face it together. Marcus started making calls to friends and colleagues who could help gather evidence and build a solid case. First, we need witnesses. Anyone who saw what happened at the jewelry store, Marcus said, mentally noting the plan. We also need to collect any kind of documented evidence, receipts, security footage, anything that can show what really happened, Evelyn added. They won't get away with this, Mom. We'll make sure justice is served, Marcus said, his tone firm and resolute. As they drove through the streets of Atlanta, mother and son felt united by a common purpose. Evelyn knew that with Marcus by her side, she wasn't alone in this fight. Together, they would go all the way to ensure the truth came to light and those who had humiliated her were held accountable. The next morning, Evelyn and Marcus woke up early, both focused on the mission ahead. Evelyn was anxious but determined. Marcus, on the other hand, was composed and professional, ready to stand up for his mother and expose the injustice she had suffered. Are you ready, Mom? Marcus asked as he finished his coffee. Yes, I'm ready. Let's put an end to this, Evelyn replied, her voice steady. They left the house and drove toward downtown Atlanta. The drive to the jewelry store was tense, but both knew this was a battle they had to face together. When they arrived at the store, Marcus held the door for his mother and walked in right behind her. The employees who had been there the day before visibly tensed upon seeing them again, especially noticing the presence of a police captain. Josh, the manager, was the first to approach. Can I help you? He asked, trying to keep calm. Yes, you can, Marcus said, his voice firm. I'm Captain Marcus Johnson from the Atlanta Police Department, and this is my mother, Evelyn Johnson. Yesterday, she was treated in an unacceptable manner in this store. We'd like to speak to the owner. Josh hesitated but had no choice but to call the owner, Mr. Whitmore, who soon appeared. He was a middle-aged man with an air of authority, but upon seeing Marcus, his face showed concern. Good morning, I'm Arthur Whitmore. How can I help you? He asked, trying to remain cordial. Mr. Whitmore, your store humiliated my mother yesterday. Your employees falsely accused her of theft and treated her with racial bias. We need to address this right now, Marcus said, maintaining control. Mom, please tell Mr. Whitmore exactly what happened, Marcus said, looking at his mother. Evelyn took a deep breath and began to recount her story. I came into the store yesterday to buy a gift for my grandson. The employees ignored me, made racist comments, and in the end, called the police for no reason. I paid for the necklace, but I was treated like a criminal. Mr. Whitmore looked sternly at Josh and the other staff. Is this true? He asked sharply. Josh, visibly nervous, tried to defend himself. We thought she couldn't afford it, and there was a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Marcus interrupted. This was blatant racism. My mother deserves an apology and compensation for this treatment. Mr. Whitmore let out a deep sigh. Mrs. Johnson, I deeply regret what happened. I assure you, the employees responsible will be disciplined. Please accept our sincere apology and this compensation, he said, handing Evelyn a check. Evelyn accepted the check, but she knew this wasn't the end. Thank you, Mr. Whitmore. I appreciate the gesture, but this doesn't erase what happened. I'm not doing this just for myself, but for all the people who've ever faced discrimination. Marcus nodded. We expect the store to implement strict anti-discrimination policies and train your employees properly. We'll also be pursuing legal action to ensure this doesn't happen to anyone else. Mr. Whitmore agreed. We'll do that, Captain Johnson. And again, my deepest apologies. Evelyn and Marcus left the store, knowing they had taken the first step toward justice. As they walked to the car, Evelyn took Marcus's hand. Thank you for standing by my side, son. I couldn't have done this without you, she said, her voice filled with emotion. We're in this together, Mom. And we won't stop until justice is served, Marcus replied with a determined smile. As they drove back home, both felt a renewed sense of strength and purpose. They knew the road ahead would be tough, but they were ready to face any challenge together. The fight was just beginning, and they wouldn't stop until every act of discrimination was exposed and every silenced voice was heard. When they returned home, Evelyn and Marcus were exhausted but determined to continue their fight for justice. Evelyn sat on the couch while Marcus picked up the phone to make some important calls. I'm going to call some friends at the police department and see if we can get the security footage from the jewelry store. That will be crucial evidence, Marcus said as he dialed the number. Evelyn nodded. All right, son. In the meantime, I'll write down everything that happened yesterday so we don't forget any details. Marcus made several calls, explaining the situation and requesting help in obtaining the footage. After hours of waiting and negotiations, he finally got a positive response. Mom, I got the footage. A friend of mine will send me a copy later today. With this, we can prove how they treated you in the store, Marcus said, relieved. Evelyn smiled. That's great news, Marcus. Now we need to find witnesses who were there yesterday. I'll talk to some people around the neighborhood. Maybe someone saw or heard something. And I'll ask around at the store too, Marcus replied. The next morning, Marcus went back to the jewelry store, this time accompanied by his detective friend, Tom. As they entered, the staff looked visibly uncomfortable. Mr. Whitmore, we need to talk again, Marcus said, addressing the owner. Of course, Captain Johnson. How can I assist you this time? Whitmore asked, trying to stay calm. We need to know if anyone else was in the store yesterday during the incident with my mother. We're looking for witnesses who can corroborate what happened, Marcus explained. Whitmore called over the employees and began asking questions. After a few minutes, a customer who had been in the back of the store stepped forward. I was here yesterday, and I saw everything. The way they treated that woman was awful. I'm willing to testify if necessary, said the woman, a middle-aged lady named Linda. Marcus thanked her. Thank you, ma'am. Your help will be invaluable. As Marcus and Tom left the jewelry store, Marcus felt his phone buzz. It was a message from his friend who had gotten the security footage. He had sent the files. Marcus looked at Tom. Let's head to the station. We need to review these tapes, Marcus said. At the police station, they watched the footage, which clearly showed the employees ignoring and mistreating Evelyn, ultimately leading to the unjustified call to the police. This is exactly what we need, Tom said. With these recordings and the witness, we've got a solid case. Marcus nodded. Now we need a good civil rights attorney to help us sue the store. I know just the person who can help. Back at Evelyn's house, Marcus explained everything to her. We got the footage and a witness, Mom. Now, we need to find a lawyer to represent us. Evelyn sighed in relief. Thank you, son. This gives me hope that we'll get justice. Marcus called a renowned civil rights lawyer, Dr. Michael Carter, who agreed to meet with them the following day. During the meeting, Marcus and Evelyn explained the entire situation, showing the recordings and recounting Linda's testimony. Dr. Carter listened carefully and, at the end, said, "This is a clear case of racial discrimination. We're going to take this to court and ensure justice is served. You have my full support." Evelyn felt a wave of relief and gratitude. "Thank you, Dr. Carter. We don't want anyone else to go through what I did. We'll get started right away. First, we need to file a formal complaint. With the evidence we have, I'm confident we'll get justice," Dr. Carter said with determination. As Marcus and Evelyn left the lawyer's office, they knew the road ahead would be long and difficult, but they were more determined than ever. They were united by a larger purpose, and nothing would stop them until the truth was revealed and justice prevailed. In the days that followed, Marcus and Evelyn worked tirelessly with Dr. Carter to prepare the case. The racial discrimination Evelyn suffered would not go unpunished, and they were committed to exposing the truth. At Dr. Carter's office, they gathered to discuss strategy. "We've got the security footage, the witness, and Evelyn's statement. We need to make sure everything is in order for the hearing," Dr. Carter said, organizing the documents on his desk. "I've reviewed the footage several times," Marcus said. "It clearly shows the employee's discriminatory behavior. There can't be any doubt about what happened." "Evelyn, how are you feeling about all of this?" Dr. Carter asked, looking directly at her. "It's hard to relive those moments, but I know it's necessary. I want to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else," Evelyn replied, her voice filled with determination. "Let's start with your statement," Dr. Carter said. "We need you to recount exactly what happened, with as much detail as possible. This will be crucial in court." Evelyn took a deep breath and began. "I walked into the jewelry store intending to buy a gift for my grandson. The staff ignored me, and when I asked to see a pearl necklace, they treated me with disdain. They made comments implying I couldn't afford it, and eventually, they called the police for no reason." Dr. Carter took meticulous notes. "That's perfect, Evelyn. We need you to maintain that clarity and conviction in court. The authenticity of your account will be one of our strongest assets." Over the following weeks, they continued to gather evidence and prepare testimony. Dr. Carter managed to bring in a few more witnesses who had been at the jewelry store that day, further strengthening their case. Marcus, always by his mother's side, provided emotional and logistical support, ensuring that Evelyn didn't feel overwhelmed. With every passing day, they grew more confident in their fight for justice. Evelyn knew that with Marcus and Dr. Carter on her side, they would not stop until the truth was revealed and those responsible for her mistreatment were held accountable. One day, while reviewing the documents, Marcus received a call. It was Linda, the witness who had offered to help. "Hi, Marcus. I just wanted to say that I'm fully committed to helping. What you're doing is really important," she said. "Thank you, Linda. Your willingness to testify makes all the difference." "We're counting on you," Marcus replied, relieved to have her support. On the eve of the hearing, Evelyn and Marcus sat together in the living room. "I'm proud of you, Mom. Your courage is inspiring," Marcus said, holding her hand. "I just want the truth to come out, son. If we can make a difference for someone, it will all be worth it," Evelyn replied, with a loving smile. The morning of the hearing, the tension was palpable. They arrived at the courthouse accompanied by Dr. Carter, who was confident and well-prepared. Evelyn took a deep breath before entering, feeling the weight of the moment, but also the strength of her resolve. In the courtroom, the hearing began with the presentation of evidence. Dr. Carter opened the case with a compelling speech, explaining the discriminatory treatment Evelyn had suffered and the need for justice. Evelyn Johnson, a respected member of our community, was treated in a humiliating and discriminatory manner. The evidence we present today makes it clear that such behavior cannot be tolerated, Dr. Carter said, his voice echoing through the courtroom. Evelyn was called to the witness stand. With calm and clarity, she recounted the events of that day, her words filled with emotion but also with unshakable firmness. Marcus watched, feeling a mixture of pride and anger. The defense lawyers tried to downplay the incident, but the security footage and the testimonies were overwhelming. Linda, when giving her statement, confirmed everything Evelyn had said, further strengthening the case. After hours of deliberation, the judge gave the final verdict. This court acknowledges the racial discrimination suffered by Evelyn Johnson. The jewelry store will be held accountable and must implement strict measures to ensure this does not happen again. Evelyn and Marcus felt a wave of relief and satisfaction. Justice had been served. Dr. Carter smiled, pleased with the outcome. "We did it, Mom. We got justice," Marcus said, hugging Evelyn. "Yes, son. And I hope this makes a difference for others too," Evelyn replied, tears of relief in her eyes. The battle had been tough, but the victory was sweet. Evelyn knew that while this was just a small part of a larger fight against racism, every step toward justice was a step in the right direction. And with her son by her side, she was ready to face any challenge that lay ahead. After the victory in court, Evelyn and Marcus returned home, feeling a mix of relief and accomplishment. However, the impact of the case soon spread beyond Atlanta, bringing with it a wave of support and solidarity, but also some negative reactions. That night, as they ate dinner, Marcus checked his phone and saw several messages from friends, colleagues, and even strangers expressing their support. "Look at this, Mom. So many people are standing with us," Marcus said, showing some of the messages to Evelyn. Evelyn smiled, feeling the warmth of the community's support. "It's good to see that so many people care. I hope this inspires others to fight against injustice." In the days that followed, Evelyn's story was widely covered by both local and national media. Newspapers, TV shows, and news websites published articles and interviews highlighting Evelyn's bravery and the crucial role Marcus played in seeking justice. One afternoon, while Evelyn was at the grocery store, a young woman approached her. "Excuse me, are you Evelyn Johnson?" the young woman asked, her eyes shining with admiration. "Yes, that's me," Evelyn replied kindly. "I just wanted to say that your story really inspired me. I went through something similar, but I never had the courage to speak up." "Thank you for your strength," the young woman said, visibly moved. Evelyn took her hand. "Thank you, dear. Remember, it's never too late to fight for what's right. Your voice matters." Meanwhile, at the police station, Marcus was speaking with his boss, Commander Williams. "Marcus, I want to tell you how proud I am of the way you handled this situation. Your mother is an incredible woman, and you did an outstanding job supporting her," Williams said with a smile. "Thank you, Commander. It was a team effort, and I'd do it all again to make sure justice is served," Marcus replied sincerely. However, not all the reactions were positive. Some members of the community, and even a few co-workers, expressed their discontent, accusing Marcus of using his position for personal gain. One afternoon, as Marcus was leaving the station, he ran into his colleague, John, who seemed troubled. "Marcus, can we talk?" John asked seriously. "Of course, what's going on?" Marcus replied, "Some people are saying that you're using your position in the police to gain notoriety." "You know how rumors are," John said cautiously. Marcus sighed. "John, everything I've done has been to support my mom and ensure justice is served. I have no interest in notoriety. I just hope people can see that." "I believe you, Marcus. I just wanted to let you know what people are saying," John replied, shaking Marcus' hand. As Marcus and Evelyn navigated the complexities of the community's reactions, they remained steadfast in their belief that they had done the right thing. Evelyn began to receive invitations to speak at community events and schools, sharing her story and encouraging others to stand up against injustice. At one of these events, Evelyn was at a local school, speaking to a packed auditorium of attentive students. "You are the future. Always remember that you have the power to change things. Never accept racism or any form of discrimination. Fight for justice, no matter how hard it is," she said, her voice full of passion. The students gave her a standing ovation, moved by her words and inspired by her courage. Back at Dr. Carter's office, he was discussing the next steps with Marcus. "Marcus, we have the opportunity to use this victory to push for broader change. We could advocate for stricter anti-discrimination policies in local businesses and institutions," Dr. Carter suggested. "I agree, Dr. Carter. We can't let this end here. We need to keep fighting," Marcus responded, determined. Evelyn and Marcus knew the fight against discrimination was long and ongoing, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. United by their unbreakable bond as mother and son, and strengthened by the community's support, They were determined to use their experience to bring about lasting and meaningful change. As Evelyn looked out the window of her home, watching the vibrant Atlanta neighborhood at sunset, she felt a wave of gratitude and hope. With Marcus by her side and the community rallying around her, she knew that together they could make a difference. With the growing public support and media attention, Evelyn and Marcus began facing new challenges. The visibility of their case brought both solidarity and hostility. Some people were resistant to the changes their fight was promoting, and it manifested in disturbing ways. One evening, as Evelyn was in the kitchen preparing dinner, the phone rang. Marcus answered and stood silent for a few seconds before responding in a serious tone. "Who is this?" A distorted voice on the other end replied, "You both need to stop this, or you'll regret it." Marcus hung up the phone and looked at his mother, concerned. "Mom, I think we need to talk about security. Someone just threatened us." Evelyn paused what she was doing and took a deep breath. "Marcus, I knew this wouldn't be easy, but we can't let these threats stop us. We're doing the right thing." "I know, Mom, but we need to make sure you're safe. I'm going to talk to the department and request frequent patrols near the house." "I won't let anything happen to you," Marcus said, resolute. The next day, Marcus spoke with Commander Williams about the threats. "Commander, we received an anonymous threat last night. We need extra patrols near my mother's house." "I understand, Marcus. I'll make sure there are regular patrols in the area, and keep us informed of any suspicious activity," Williams replied, concerned. Meanwhile, Evelyn continued to receive invitations to speak at events and participate in interviews. On one occasion, she was at a local radio station, waiting for her turn to go on air. The host, Bill Harper, greeted her warmly. "Evelyn, it's a pleasure to have you here. Your story has been an inspiration to so many," Bill said, shaking her hand. "Thank you, Bill. I'm glad to have the opportunity to share my experience and, hopefully, encourage others to stand up against injustice," Evelyn replied with a smile. During the interview, Evelyn spoke about the case, the threats, and the importance of continuing the fight. "We can't stay silent in the face of discrimination. We need to keep speaking up and taking action. It's the only way to bring about real change." Meanwhile, at the station, Marcus continued to receive glances and comments from some colleagues who didn't agree with his public stance. John, his colleague, approached him again. "Marcus, are you okay? Things seem to be getting tough," John asked, concerned. "I'm handling it, John. I know some people don't agree with what I'm doing, but I'm not going to stop. My mom deserves justice, and I'm going to make sure she gets it," Marcus replied, firmly. John nodded. "I understand, and I want you to know I'm on your side. If you need anything, I'm here." "Thanks, John. Your support means a lot to me," Marcus said, shaking his friend's hand. Later that week, while Evelyn was at home, she received an anonymous letter. When she opened it, she found a threatening message: "Stop now, or you'll regret it." Evelyn showed the letter to Marcus, who immediately called the police. "This is going too far, Mom. We need to get the FBI involved. These threats are serious." Evelyn nodded, feeling the weight of the situation. "Do whatever you need to, son. But we're not giving up." Marcus contacted the FBI, which began an investigation into the threats. Agents started monitoring Evelyn's house and looking into potential suspects. Meanwhile, Evelyn and Marcus continued their work, determined not to be intimidated. One evening, as they sat in the living room, Evelyn looked over at Marcus. "Son, I know this has been hard on you too. Are you holding up okay?" "I'm fine, Mom. If anything, this is giving me more strength to fight. I won't let anything stop us," Marcus replied with a confident smile. Evelyn took Marcus's hand. "I'm proud of you, son. I know we're going to get through this together." The FBI investigation provided some relief, but the threats didn't stop completely. Evelyn and Marcus knew they were on the right path, but they also knew they had to stay vigilant. As they looked ahead, they remained determined to continue their fight for justice. They understood that this battle was bigger than just the two of them, and they were ready to face whatever came next together. With the community by their side and justice as their goal, Evelyn and Marcus were prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. The growing visibility of Evelyn's case began to unite the Atlanta community in ways she never imagined. In response to the threats, Local civil rights organizations, churches, and even small businesses started to speak out in support of Evelyn and Marcus. One Saturday afternoon, a large community event was organized at a local park to show solidarity with Evelyn and the fight against racism. The park was packed, with people holding signs and banners calling for justice and support. When Evelyn and Marcus arrived at the event, they were greeted with warm applause. Reverend Samuel Harris, a respected community leader, took the stage to speak. "Brothers and sisters, we are here today to show that we will not tolerate injustice." The courage of Evelyn Johnson and her son, Marcus, reminds us that we must stand together and fight against discrimination in all its forms, the Reverend said, his voice echoing across the park. Evelyn was invited to the stage to speak. With a microphone in hand, she looked out at the crowd and felt a wave of emotion. "Thank you all for being here today. This fight isn't just mine, it's ours. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can ensure that no one else has to go through what I've been through," Evelyn said, as tears of gratitude welled up in her eyes. After Evelyn, Marcus was also called to speak. He looked at the crowd with pride and determination. "We're here because we believe in justice, because we believe that every person deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. Let's keep fighting, not just for my mother, but for everyone who faces discrimination. We're in this together," Marcus said, raising his fist in a show of solidarity. The crowd erupted in cheers, and the energy in the park was electric. After the speeches, people gathered to share stories, offer support, and discuss ways to continue the fight against discrimination. Among the attendees was Lisa Thompson, a young civil rights attorney. She approached Marcus and Evelyn after the speeches. "Hi, I'm Lisa Thompson. I work with a civil rights organization, and I want to offer our help. We have legal resources and connections that can further strengthen your cause," Lisa said, extending her hand. "Nice to meet you, Lisa. Your help would be invaluable." "We need all the support we can get," Marcus replied, shaking her hand. "Evelyn, your story has touched so many people. We want to make sure it continues to inspire and drive change," Lisa said, turning to Evelyn. "Thank you, Lisa. With your help, we can do so much more. Let's work together to make sure justice prevails," Evelyn responded with a warm smile. As the event continued, Marcus and Evelyn realized the positive impact their fight was having. The community's support not only strengthened their resolve, but also opened new doors to promote justice and equality. The following week, Evelyn was invited to speak at a civil rights conference at Emory University. The auditorium was filled with students, professors, and activists eager to hear her story. "Good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to be here today. My experience at the jewelry store was painful, but it also gave me the opportunity to fight for something bigger than myself. I hope my story inspires you to stand up against injustice, no matter where or how it happens," Evelyn said, as the audience listened intently. After her speech, several students approached her to thank her and express their support. Among them was Sarah, a law student who was deeply moved by Evelyn's words. "Evelyn, your story gave me a new sense of purpose. I want to specialize in civil rights and fight against discrimination," Sarah said excitedly. "And you can, Sarah. Each of us can make a difference. Always remember that," Evelyn replied with an encouraging smile. As Evelyn and Marcus continued to receive support and build important connections, they knew they were only at the beginning of a long journey. The community's solidarity not only gave them strength but also showed that, together, they could achieve meaningful change. With the community by their side, Evelyn and Marcus were more determined than ever to fight against injustice and discrimination. They knew that every step forward was a step in the right direction, and they were ready to continue this fight, no matter what lay ahead. Evelyn and Marcus's story continued to draw national media attention. TV shows, podcasts, and newspapers wanted to interview Evelyn, eager to share her story of courage and resilience. Evelyn knew that using the media to amplify her message was crucial in driving lasting change. One morning, Evelyn and Marcus were at home when the phone rang. Marcus answered, and his expression changed to one of surprise and satisfaction. "Mom, it's the producer from Good Morning America. They want to interview us." Evelyn nodded, understanding the importance of such a popular show. "Of course, Marcus. Let's do it. The more people who hear our story, the better." 2 days later, they found themselves in the ABC studio in New York. They were greeted by Sarah Reynolds, the show's producer. "Welcome, Evelyn and Marcus. We're honored to have you here. Your story is inspiring, and we're excited to share it with our audience," Sarah said warmly. "Thank you, Sarah. We're happy to be here and to share our experience," Evelyn replied with a smile. Soon after, they were brought to the set of the show, where hosts Robin Roberts and Michael Strahan were waiting. The bright lights and cameras served as a reminder of the reach this interview would have. "Good morning, Evelyn and Marcus. Thank you for being here with us today," Robin said with a welcoming smile. "Good morning. Thank you for having us," Evelyn responded. "Your story has touched so many people. Evelyn, can you tell us how it all started?" Michael asked, turning to her. Evelyn took a deep breath before starting. "It all began when I walked into the jewelry store to buy a gift for my grandson. I was ignored, treated with disdain, and eventually humiliated by the staff. It was a difficult moment, but I knew I couldn't stay silent." "Marcus, what was it like for you to see your mother go through that?" Robin asked. "It was devastating, Robin. Seeing my mother treated that way was painful. As a police officer, I knew I had to do something about it. We decided together to fight for justice, not just for her, but for everyone who faces discrimination," Marcus replied seriously. "Since then, you've received a lot of support from the community. How has that been?" Michael asked. "The support has been incredible. People from all walks of life have stood with us, and it's given us the strength to keep fighting. We know that our story is just one of many, and we want to use this platform to create real change," Evelyn said, her voice filled with emotion. "What message would you like to leave with our audience today?" Back in Atlanta, Evelyn and Marcus's lives remained busy. The media attention brought new challenges, but also new opportunities. One afternoon, while they were at home, Evelyn received a call from a famous filmmaker, James Reynolds. "Evelyn, this is James Reynolds. Your story is powerful, and I'd love to adapt it into a documentary. I believe it could have an even greater impact," James said enthusiastically. Evelyn was surprised and moved. "That's incredible, James. I'd love to work with you to tell our story in a way that inspires others." "Great. Let's set up a meeting to discuss the details. I want to make sure your voice and experience are captured authentically," James said before ending the call. When Evelyn shared the news with Marcus, he smiled. "That's fantastic, Mom. A documentary can reach even more people and help us keep fighting for justice." "Yes, son. We'll keep fighting, no matter what. Together, we're stronger," Evelyn replied, her eyes shining with determination. As the preparations for the documentary began, Evelyn and Marcus were aware that each step they took was a step forward in their fight against discrimination. With the media on their side, the community united, and their unwavering determination, they were ready to face whatever challenges came their way. The idea of turning Evelyn and Marcus's story into a documentary started to take shape. With the help of director James Reynolds, initial meetings were scheduled to discuss the format, approach, and central message they wanted to convey. Evelyn and Marcus were excited, but also nervous. It was an opportunity to show the world the reality many people face. At the first meeting, James welcomed them into his studio. "I'm so excited to work with you. Your story is powerful and needs to be told authentically," he said with an encouraging smile. "Thank you, James. We hope we can inspire others to stand up against discrimination," Evelyn replied, looking confidently at Marcus. "Yes, we want the message to reach a broad audience. It's important to show not just what happened, but also the aftermath and the ongoing fight for justice," Marcus added. James jotted down some ideas. "Perfect. We'll include interviews, reenactments, and maybe even some scenes of you both in action, talking to the community. The focus will be not just on your struggle, but on the resilience of the community." In the weeks that followed, filming began. Evelyn and Marcus attended community events, schools, and support centers where they shared their story and listened to others' experiences of discrimination. At one of these events, while speaking with a group of young people, a teenager named Maya stood out. "Evelyn, your courage inspires me. I've also been in situations where I was ignored or treated unfairly because of my skin color. It's comforting to know I'm not alone," Maya said, her voice trembling. Evelyn smiled gently. "You're not alone, dear. Many people go through this. What's important is that you always stand up and fight. Your voice is powerful, and you have the right to be heard. Marcus chimed in as well. Maya, you should use your experience to motivate others. Don't be afraid to speak up. We're here to support you. As the filming progressed, James began integrating footage of protests, speeches, and moments of solidarity that had occurred around Evelyn's case. The documentary focused not only on the injustice Evelyn faced, but also on the way the community had come together in response. On one particular day, during a community meeting, James captured an especially powerful moment. Evelyn was speaking about the impact the threats had had on her life. When I received those letters, it was terrifying, but I realized I couldn't let fear stop me. We need to come together and fight for a future where no one has to go through what I did, Evelyn said, her voice strong and resolute. After the meeting, as community members began to disperse, Marcus approached Evelyn. You were amazing, Mom. The way you connect with people is really special. Thank you, my son. I believe we all have a role to play in this fight. Together, we can create meaningful change, Evelyn replied, her eyes filled with hope. However, not everything was smooth. As the documentary took shape, some people who opposed its message began to speak out. Marcus received several hateful messages on social media, and some of his co-workers started to distance themselves from him. One morning, after a long day of filming, Marcus was at home when he received a threatening message. If you don't stop talking about your mother and this story, you'll regret it. He shared the message with Evelyn, who immediately became concerned. Marcus, this is getting out of control. We need to involve the police again. Yeah, I'll talk to Commander Williams. I'm not going to let these threats silence us. We're fighting for something much bigger, Marcus said, determined. As they prepared for the next shoot, Evelyn and Marcus discussed the importance of staying strong, no matter the challenges. Evelyn, are you ready for tomorrow's shoot? We're planning something special, James said, excited. Yes, I'm ready. I want the message of hope and resistance to really resonate with everyone, Evelyn responded with a determined expression. On the morning of the shoot, Evelyn and Marcus stood together in a park, surrounded by their community. James had organized a live event where they would speak about their experiences and the importance of solidarity. We're here today to show that together, we are stronger. No matter what we face, we must always fight for justice and equality, Evelyn said, addressing the crowd. Applauded by hundreds of people, Evelyn and Marcus felt the support of the community, a reminder that they were not alone. The shoot became a turning point, not just for them, but for everyone watching and joining the cause. As filming continued and the fight for justice intensified, Evelyn and Marcus were more determined than ever. The journey was far from over, but with the support of the community and a powerful message, they were ready to face whatever challenges came their way. The day of the trial finally arrived, and the atmosphere around the courthouse was tense. The reputation of the jewelry store was at stake, as was Evelyn and Marcus's fight for justice. The community was on high alert, and many showed up at the courthouse to support Evelyn. Posters and t-shirts with messages of solidarity filled the courtroom, showing they were in this fight together. Marcus arrived early, dressed in his police uniform. He found Evelyn sitting in the waiting room, nervous. "Mom, how are you feeling?" he asked, sitting beside her. "A little nervous, to be honest, but I'm ready. This is an important step, Marcus. We can't let discrimination win," Evelyn replied, holding her son's hand. "You're stronger than you think, Mom. The community is behind us. And remember, we've got Lisa and her team fighting for us," Marcus said, trying to instill confidence. Lisa Thompson, the lawyer handling the case, entered the room with a determined expression. "Evelyn, Marcus, it's time to go in. We're ready to fight." As they entered the courtroom, the tension increased. The judge, a middle-aged woman with a commanding presence, walked in and took her seat. Court is now in session. Case number 2034, Evelyn Johnson versus Gold & Company, Jewelers. The jewelry store's attorney, an arrogant man named Mr. Caldwell, stood up. "Your Honor, what we have here is simply a misunderstanding. Mrs. Johnson was behaving suspiciously, which led to the situation that occurred." Evelyn felt hurt, but knew she had to remain calm. "I wasn't behaving suspiciously. I walked into the store like any other customer. It was the discrimination I faced that caused this situation," she said, her voice steady. Lisa stepped in. What my client experienced was not a misunderstanding. It was blatant racism and a violation of her rights as a consumer. The judge, paying close attention, gestured for the defense attorney to quiet down. We'll hear Mrs. Johnson's testimony first. Evelyn took the stand, and as she looked around the room, she saw familiar faces in the crowd. She remembered the struggle that had led her to this moment and took a deep breath. When I walked into that jewelry store, I didn't expect to be treated any differently than any other customer. What happened to me was humiliating and unfair. I just wanted to buy a gift for my grandson, Evelyn began, her voice clear and strong. I was ignored, and when I was finally acknowledged, I was treated like I didn't matter. This isn't just about money. It's about dignity, she continued, as the room murmured in support. Mr. Caldwell wasted no time. Mrs. Johnson, there was no discrimination. The store has the right to protect its goods and its employees. Protect them from what? Paying customers? I can't believe this is the defense you're offering, Evelyn retorted, her gaze unwavering. After Evelyn's testimony, Lisa called a series of witnesses to the stand. Friends, community members, and even customers who were in the store at the time came forward to share their own experiences of discrimination. Finally, it was Marcus's turn to testify. He took the stand, and Evelyn's gaze met his. As a police officer, it's my duty to protect and serve the community. What happened to my mother isn't just an isolated incident. It's a reflection of a much larger issue, Marcus began, his voice heavy with emotion. I've seen the impact this experience has had on her and the anguish it caused our family. It's unacceptable that in the 21st century, we still have to fight against racial discrimination, Marcus said as the audience listened intently. When the defense tried to undermine Marcus's credibility, the judge intervened. Let's stay on topic, please. After hours of testimony, the judge finally retired to deliberate. The tension in the courtroom was palpable. Evelyn held Marcus's hand, knowing that regardless of the outcome, their fight had made a difference. As they awaited the judge's return, Evelyn's supporters began chanting words of encouragement. Justice, 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 echoed throughout the courtroom, and the unity of the community was evident. Finally, the judge returned to the courtroom. After considering the evidence presented, this court recognizes that Mrs. Evelyn Johnson suffered racial discrimination at the hands of Gold & Company jewelers. A wave of emotion swept over the courtroom. Evelyn and Marcus exchanged glances, tears of joy in their eyes. The judge continued, therefore, the jewelry store will be held accountable and must pay damages to Mrs. Johnson. Additionally, this court recommends diversity and inclusion training for all employees. As the crowd erupted in applause, Evelyn and Marcus embraced. We did it, Mom. This is just the beginning, Marcus said, a mix of joy and relief on his face. Yes, son, this is for all of us. Our fight doesn't end here, Evelyn replied, her smile radiating hope and determination. In that moment, with the judge's decision, they knew they had made history. The battle for justice would continue, not just for them, but for everyone fighting against discrimination and injustice. With the verdict in hand, Evelyn and Marcus realized that their struggle had not been in vain. The courtroom victory was a crucial step, but they understood that real change would require more than just a favorable judgment. They became active voices in the fight against racial discrimination, choosing to use their platform to educate and inspire others. Shortly after the trial, Evelyn and Marcus were invited to speak at a civil rights conference in Atlanta. As they prepared for the event, Evelyn looked at herself in the mirror, adjusting her dress and recalling how it all began. Look at you, Mom. You're a true inspiration. I can't believe we're here, Marcus said as he straightened his suit. It's amazing, isn't it? To think it all started with a simple day of shopping. Now we have the chance to impact lives, Evelyn replied, her eyes shining. At the conference, the room was filled with activists, young and old, all eager to hear their stories. As Evelyn and Marcus took the stage, the audience erupted in applause. Thank you all for being here, Evelyn began, looking out at the crowd. My story isn't unique. Many people face discrimination every day, but together, we can make a difference. Marcus joined her at the microphone. We're here to show that the fight against racism is everyone's fight. We must not be silent. Our voices have power." After their speeches, a young person raised their hand and asked, "What can we do to help combat discrimination in our communities?" Evelyn smiled. "The first thing you can do is educate yourselves. Learn about others' experiences. Then, don't hesitate to speak up when you see injustice. Each of us can make a difference, no matter how small it may seem." In the following months, Evelyn and Marcus continued to speak at community events, schools, and universities. The response was overwhelming, and each talk seemed to only heighten the community's desire to fight against discrimination. At one of these presentations at a local school, Evelyn met a teacher named Angela, who was so inspired that she asked for help in implementing a diversity program. "Evelyn, I would love to work with you to create a curriculum that helps our students better understand discrimination and how to combat it," Angela said excitedly. "I would love that, Angela. It's vital that the next generations learn the importance of empathy and respect," Evelyn replied. Meanwhile, Marcus was on a mission of his own. He started organizing diversity training for the Atlanta Police Department, aiming to change the culture within the force. In a meeting with his colleagues, he said, "As officers, we must understand that our position of power comes with a tremendous responsibility. We have to ensure that we treat everyone with dignity and respect." One of his colleagues, Mike, raised his hand. "Marcus, I'm completely on board. I want to help change the way the community sees us." "That's exactly what we need, Mike. It's not just about what we do on patrol, but about how we build relationships with the community," Marcus responded, feeling motivated. The documentary was finally released and quickly gained national attention. Evelyn and Marcus watched the film at a special screening, where the room was filled with friends, family, and supporters. "I'm so nervous," Evelyn said, holding Marcus's hand as they took their seats. "Don't worry, Mom. What you did is incredible and deserves to be seen," he replied, squeezing her hand. As the film began, Evelyn felt her heart race. The stories told in the documentary were powerful, and by the end, the audience was on their feet, applauding and shouting words of support. After the screening, several young people approached them. "Your story changed the way I see the world. What can I do to help?" a young man asked. "Share your story. Talk about your experiences and don't be afraid to stand up for justice. Every voice matters," Evelyn said with an encouraging smile. Evelyn and Marcus's lives had transformed. They were no longer just a mother and son. They were now leaders in their community, fighting for justice and equality. They understood that the battle against racism was ongoing, but they were determined to continue their work. As they walked home after the screening, Marcus looked at his mother. "You know, Mom, this fight doesn't end here. We have to keep making noise." "Yes, my son. This is just the beginning. We'll keep fighting and spreading this message. Together, we can change the world," Evelyn replied, a spark of determination in her eyes. And so, with the community by their side and the promise of a fairer future ahead, Evelyn and Marcus embarked on a new chapter in their lives, ready to face whatever came next, with courage and hope in their hearts.